everyone. It's Pastor Steve here with our Monday Minute for September 21st of 2020. It's hard to believe that this is the last full official day of summer. Fall begins tomorrow. From a calendar perspective, it seems like time has just kind of flown on by. From a weather perspective, on the other hand, we've been feeling those very cool and crisp mornings. We're starting to see the leaves change, and we know that a new season is upon us. That's also been evident here at the church as we have been trying to get back into some of our traditional fall programming, although we're doing it in a pretty untraditional way. Just a reminder that our Glimpses of Grace class, hosted by Reverend Gassaway, started last Wednesday, and those are held at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. You can get that link from the Newberg website. You can join every week. It's going to be a new segment at that time. So please feel free to log into that and get a part of that discussion. On Thursdays, we just began our book study on Jesus for President by Shane Claiborne and Chris Ha. We went through our introduction last Thursday. This week, we'll be getting into section 1 of the book, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for that as well. You can pick up that book either through Amazon or through Cokesbury. If you would like us to order the book for you at the church, we'd be happy to do that. You simply need to contact the church office, and we'll see that that gets taken care of. You can join us on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. That will be via Facebook Live. Again, you can access that also from our social media or the Newberg website. Saturdays with Mrs. Karen has picked back up again as well. And look for those every Saturday as we have a new children's message ready to go. In addition, our student prayer boxes are going to be available for pickup on Wednesday this week. So be sure to do that. And if you do need some assistance in getting those prayer boxes, please contact Karen Golden and we'll see about getting that taken care of. Watch for our other upcoming announcements as our youth program has kicked off yesterday, as a matter of fact, and other events will be forthcoming. The other two big announcements that we have coming up is, first of all, our town hall meeting, which is going to be online. That will be September 29th. That's a Tuesday. That will be at 7 p.m. And there we're going to reveal the results of our online survey that we took from our last town hall meeting, and we'll make some announcements going forward. The other thing we want you to mark your calendar for is World Communion Sunday. That is going to be the first Sunday in October, and that will be an outdoor service in addition to our morning service, and that will be at 6 p.m. at the church. And that will be a chance for us to celebrate the sacrament of Holy Communion on that day with our fellow Christians around the world. So we hope that you'll join us for that. As we come into this new season, I wanted to share with you something that has actually been on my mind for the last couple of weeks, but especially now as we get into the fall. Len Wilson, who was the creative director at Peachtree Presbyterian Church in Atlanta a few years ago, he wrote an article that was titled, "You Must Choose What Is Most Important." And the key phrase that he put in that article was, "When everything is a good idea, then nothing is a good idea." We have to choose what's important to us. And he talked about when he first started out in the ministry too, about everybody who was coming to him with one idea after the next and getting run over by someone else's freight train of freak out. I love that phrase, and I've used it ever since I read that article. What Wilson says is the problem is not just logistical. It's a problem of priority. The church has to figure out what of all of these worthy programs and ideas, and pretty much all of them are, but which ones of those fit into what we are about as a church? The Apostle Paul had something to say about this too in the early church. In 1 Corinthians 10, verse 23, Paul says this, "All things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. All things are lawful, but not all things build up." Now, Paul is talking about meeting people where they are in terms of their faith, but he's also talking about so much more than that. He's talking about a lesson of what I believe Wilson is also trying to get at as well. We can certainly do all things, but to what end? What's the benefit? What's the goal? What are we ultimately trying to accomplish? Now, even before COVID, this principle was something that many churches and other organizations were struggling with in the face. When we first encountered this pandemic, we all hit our own little freight trains of freak out, as you will, trying to decide what's the best thing that we can do given these circumstances here. And ideas started to flow in fast and furious, and we had other ideas that started to emerge. And then with those ideas and other problems that came up, we had our own little freight trains of freak out. People start coming to us saying, I saw this church doing this. I saw that church doing that. Me, I saw this church try this. I saw this church try that. Other members of our staff, same thing. You get the point. About 10 years ago, when I attended the Congress on Evangelism, I was at a workshop and a speaker talked about the importance of prioritizing ministry in your context. Someone else may have a good idea and a successful ministry, but it should always be taken into the context of which it is being shared. Again, all things are lawful, but not everything is beneficial. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't. It depends on our context. Case in point, in my last appointment when I was in Marquette, I proposed that we do a free hot chocolate stand for the community for a big wintertime event that took place every year so that we could increase our exposure and just show that we were out and active in the community. I convinced people that this was probably the right thing to do. It was actually quite easy and low maintenance, and we did it. And it was a huge success. People even started asking us, oh, the church that, you're the church that gives out the hot chocolate. Now, the key here is the event. That event was the UP 200 sled dog races. That's right, a sled dog race. Now, if you're not familiar with that, I'm not surprised. Many people aren't into sled dog racing. This is actually the biggest event in North America for sled dog races, next to the Iditarod. It's a big deal for those who are in it. But if you don't happen to be in that area or in that context, it probably is meaningless to you. See, for the hundreds of people who made their way down there every year, down the block from our church, we made an impact. And we were able to attract people to some of our ministries and help them to know what we were all about. But you've probably never heard of this. And that's not surprising, because until I moved to the UP, I'd never heard of it either. Now, furthermore, there is no single event that we can latch onto at our context that would duplicate what I did there with that sled dog race in Marquette. It just won't work here. And it can't work here. Our context is so different. Our location is so different, and our community is different. While it was a great idea and it was innovative and it makes for a nice story, it has no practical application in this context here. As we've moved into a fall season and we continue to deal with the realities of the fallout from this pandemic, we're bombarded with ideas from other churches and seeing what it is that they're doing. Some of them are good ideas. Some of them are very creative ideas, and many of them work in their context. But we always have to be discerning. And that's what Paul is getting at when he is talking to the Corinthians. Be discerning about how to best minister to those who you find in the context that you are in. The ministry we have can and has been adapted throughout this pandemic. And as we have discovered too, some of them we're going to have to change, and we already have because of the pandemic. And some things we just cannot do anymore. But we are best served when we have that filter, even when new ideas are coming in. So we are not frantically jumping from, as Wilson says, one idea to the next and gaining no traction anywhere. So in this new season where the fall is coming, the weather's getting colder, and we have to get more and more creative about how we find ways to still try to be together and keep one another safe. We also have to be discerning about what's going to be most beneficial for us and what is going to build us up rather than just busy ourselves. Our goal, ultimately, as United Methodist, is to make disciples of Jesus Christ. We do that here at Newburgh by recognizing Christ in everyone and ministering in their context. Our first priority, then, should be to share what we already have and what we already know how to do, and then to adapt and to adopt so that we can continue to reach others in this new time, in this new way. Our goal is ultimately to be beneficial, as Paul says, and to build up Newburgh and to build up God's church as a whole. So, in this new season, as the daylight is changing, the times are changing, let's be creative, but let's also be discerning as we are in this new season and as we go through these new times together. We'll look forward to seeing you online this week and on Sunday, and then we look forward to you joining us again next week for another installment of our Monday Minute. Peace and prayers. Have a good week.